Hey everyone, and welcome. This is Kenlin, and today's transmission is going to be about the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra. I'm just really on fire about this now. And also, thank you for your good wishes for my mouth. I had dental surgery 2 weeks ago, and it's on the mend. It's just going to get better and better. So I'm really grateful for our community and the support that I have felt. I so appreciate your healing vibes. So let's turn our attention to what's happening with relationships with the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra. So those of you who are in your mid-50s are experiencing a nodal return. So your natal North Node is probably Aries if you were born in that certain window, and your South Node is Libra. So you are having a natal return. I just had my natal return when the North Node was in Taurus and the South Node was in Scorpio. I felt like it's a year and a half, and I felt like, wow, this was super transformative. So you get to pick forth the themes and see how these themes are working with you. Now, it's also the collective North Node. So regardless of whether you're in your mid-50s, this is the North Node of the collective. So let me back up and talk about what the North Node is. And that's our dharmic point. That's where our future. The North Node represents in astrology that point of our future. And each one of us has our own a sign in our North Node position, and it supports you in understanding what your personal dharma is. And I'm going to do a workshop on that because I love this work, but I love it for the context, So if you know me, you know that I'm not into this is right, this is wrong. What I'm into is always having prisms to see things I can't see. So one of the things that, let's say, I didn't know anything about astrology, I'd be walking around noticing that relationships are massively changing. And more people are having divorces, more people are separating, and lots of truth telling, lots of things from the depths that were hidden under the rug are coming forward. Or behaviors that were tolerated before that are now no longer being tolerated. There's also in the personal growth, spiritual community, a sense of self-expression, leadership, standing up for myself, like empowered, like I want to be that. That is the North Node in Aries, and we're going to unpack this in a minute. The South Node is the opposite. So everything lives in these poles of equal and opposite, just like we do in duality. And the opposite of Aries is Libra. And Libra is the scales, justice. It's equal weight. It's masculine, feminine. It's very relational. So those of you who have your Venus in Libra, no, it's a very beautiful, yummy, relational aspect. So the South Node collectively is letting go of old partnerships, old ways of being. And the Libra is known for being codependent. So the codependency axis is this Libra Aries axis. So that's getting worked in our collective. So if you have this as a personal North Node, then what's happening is you are in your life, you've done relationships many, many times in your life. And it's really a time for you to, and it doesn't mean you can't be in a relationship. I know many people in their 50s, friends of mine who are in relationship. It really means that the relating is about you rising and you being in your leadership. It's less about, I just really need to be in a partnership. No, you actually need to be really self-expressed in a partnership. You need to be in your leadership, in your work, and in your life. It's a different axis point that you're working. So that's personal. Collectively, we can feel that we are leaving an old model of relationship. And if we think about what are some of the old models, we can just look at the trajectory of history, I've been reading a lot of historical fiction, and the feminine has been so deeply repressed and suppressed and maligned. And, it was a woman's fault if she got raped. And she was beaten on top of being raped in certain cultures and lands and places, including this country as well. So you think about the feminine had no property rights, no voting rights, not a right to have a bank account. In some cultures, property devising, like inheritance, went through the male. So widows were cast into the street. So women have lived longer than men. And when women live longer than men, they've been cast out into the streets as beggars. So you just like the compounding nature of the disrespect of the feminine inside of a 6,000, more or less patriarchy. It's all having a reckoning right now. It's a freaking reckoning right now. And we are the patriarchy. So I don't want to point fingers because we were raised by the patriarchy. I always say, like, we ate the cereal of the patriarchy. Like, we ate it for breakfast. It was part of our own thinking. It's part of our own way of being. The biases that we have about men or women, we carry them. And part of our work in shadow work is to start to dissolve them, start to feel into new truths that are coming through us, even through the masculine. But we can see on the world stage that there's still a great fight, right? The patriarchal way of being is holding on. They do not want to lose power because they don't know who they are. That's the thing. It's power over, yes, and because that's a safety mechanism. They don't know who they are. They haven't had their soul awakening and reckoning. And the feminine is having that happen. And so she's going to be a leader in the relationship. And her womb, the wisdom of her womb, the primordial truth of the feminine that has always been inside our bodies, but completely lived up here, disregard that, just have sex, just get pounded. That's one of my teachers says that's patriarchal sex. Yeah. And that's how we've handed our kids, right? And that's what we've put in movies. So everybody understands patriarchal sex, but we don't call it that. We call it sex. But the feminine is like, fuck no. Fuck no. I don't want that anymore. And that's going to be destabilizing for the masculine. Like, can you imagine? Like, I thought everything was fine. Holy shit. Now I don't even know how to have sex with you. Right? Like, everything is shifting. The fucking ground we've been on is moving. It's tectonic and it's coming up from our wombs. We can't help it. We cannot help it. If you try to suppress it, oh my God, you're just going to get unleash your anger. And she's already angry. Everything that she's had to go through for freaking millennia is in this womb, in my womb, in your womb is everything that every feminine has ever gone through. Because the womb is the doorway to the collective unconscious. It is a doorway to that Shakti. It is the life force energy. It is primordial, meaning it exists before you. Wow. That's so cool. It's cool. And when we start waking up to that wisdom, we are accountable. We are so accountable to that wisdom. We are so accountable to that truth. And the truth lives in the moment. It lives here and now, right in this embodiment. and it can shift and change. But it lives right here, right now, in the womb. The womb knows. This is why I honestly love the work of David Data so much. He was a yogi. He is a yogini in the masculine feminine arts, and he's been doing this for probably over 30 years. It was one of my first, introductions in the spiritual, yogic, sexual, tantric world. And, he just so understands and has done his best to communicate the gifts of the masculine and the feminine, and the reverence for that feminine Shakti as the truth teller. Like, I've just been thinking and recalling some of his stories, but that's really where the masculine collectively gets to go. And you can see the North Node in Aries helping. We have to have help, because how many of us would be like, oh yeah, let's just cause a revolution? No, we're rocking the boat, and everything could change, and lots is at stake, and we know it. And our conscious minds are like, no way, shut the fuck up. But our wombs are like, no, 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 no. We're here for more than that. We're here for more than that. We're here for the revolution. We're here for the reclamation, because this society cannot get reordered without the feminine reclamation. It cannot. So all of this, I'm just like, all of this effort that we put into getting along, let's just get along. Let's, let's figure out how to do that on the world stage. We see it in politics. We can't until we reclaim our womb. We cannot. Because there's no going back to that kind of civility that isn't authentic and true. We are not going to do it. The North Node in Aries is going to help us, because Aries is I am. So we're coming into Aries season. If you're listening to this in Pisces season, you think about the zodiac wheel, and Pisces being the last sign of the zodiac. But the wheel keeps going. It's not linear. It doesn't drop off. We keep going. So that we return. So we go on the journey and we return. And where have we returned? We've returned to oneness. We return to the mother. We return to the womb. We return to the primordial. That's Pisces. That's why we're all like feeling the feels and super connected right now. Because Pisces season is an opening of that doorway. And then what happens is we go into the birth canal, that liminal time between Pisces and Aries before the spring equinox in the northern hemisphere, or the autumnal equinox in the southern hemisphere. And we birth ourselves. The holy explosion of I am. The holy explosion of I am. I am here. I exist. That is Aries. I am ready to lead. I'm ready to step in. And lead doesn't mean power over. Lead means I'm ready to show up in my full capacity with my truth, with my heart, in love, because love is the deepest service. And sometimes love says, do not fuck with me. That is love. Or sometimes love says, no, you can't have that. Sometimes love says, you got to do your homework. You got to pick up your socks. That's just how we're going to roll in this house. I'm going to stand for it. It's not naggy. It's not disempowered. Nagging is disempowered. Wah, 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 wah. Everyone has the power and I don't have it. So wah, 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 wah. That's old. Have you ever asked for something in your power with your children? Have you enrolled them in a possibility of, guess what? We're taking care of this house. It's collective space, no socks on it. How are we going to handle it? What's your idea? Right? Enroll them in a possibility. So we're not talking about the collapsing of our boundaries. In fact, quite the opposite. We're talking about our power, but then are enrolling from that place others in a possibility of the collective. That's really the gift that we're being given with the North Node in Aries, surrounded by this huge Aquarian energy for the next 20 years that's saying, guess what, guys, you got to get along. We want to get along. We want to live in community. So yes, relationships, my friends, are shifting and changing, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that might produce a lot of anxiety. That might produce fear. All of that's normal. Just hold yourself, like literally hold yourself through it. Reparent yourself through it. I just did some feminine embodiment practices inside the membership. Just really hold yourself, hold your little one. We can do this. And so pop up a level, as I was saying, keep the bigger view, keep the view of the epoch, keep the view of the ages, and that this shift is happening through us for a reason. So keep that view. The Buddhists say, maintain the view, because things look different when you're up here, able to hold it all. Like, yeah, it's changing now. Yes, I'm scared. Yes. But my soul knows what it's doing. These are forces bigger than I am. And I said yes to this moment to be a midwife of the change of an age. And so it's very important that I bring my womb to the conversation. That's why I'm here. That's why I incarnated. That's why I said yes. Bring the womb forward. And things will work themselves out. They will work themselves out. And we might be really messy, but we're going to learn. We're going to learn how to do it. When your kids are learning something, they don't color inside the lines. They're not supposed to. It's supposed to be messy. When you bang on the piano, when you first start taking lessons or get a piano in your house, it sounds horrible because you've got to get yourself in the rhythm of what is this thing? What does it do? How does it sound? I have to adjust my ear to its ear. I have to listen to inside. What is the music inside that wants to be played? And then that practice changes that messiness to something that sounds harmonious and beautiful. And so we will get there. But thank you for being a pioneer, because the North Node in Aries is pioneering. It's charting new territory for all of us, for the good of all of us. So let's gather all the positive energy that we've just generated in this transmission, the Shakti energy, and let's dedicate it to the merits. May all beings benefit from the merits of our efforts. Namaste.